MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 238 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. It's Wednesday, August, where are we? 13th. My goodness.
13th, yeah.
2025. I'm Allison Gill.
Hey, G, what's up? It's Harry Dunn here. All right. So today we're going to be talking about, I'm sure everybody is aware of what's going on, the federalization of the Metropolitan Police and the deployment of the National Guard troops in DC, along with updates on the Epstein files and new investigations into New York Attorney General Tish James and Senator Adam Schiff.
Oh, Lord. We're also going to be talking about the Newsom trial, the Gavin Newsom trial, which is underway right now as we speak in California. We're going to talk about the sixth Trump IRS commissioner. We'll also cover what's become of all of those 2020 election cases in the states, right? Like Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia. And we have a new lawsuit also from AME against the Proud Boys for copyright infringement.
We love
but first, that. I know, it's so good. We're gonna wrap up with that so we can leave everybody with a little bit of on an up
a little
note.
bit of hope. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But first, speaking of hope and awesomeness, we have some new patrons to thank. Thank you for signing up. Emily Trussell, Tammy, Gina, Kenneth Winterberger, and Blue AL Hospice Chaplain. I love this.
Awesome.
A hospice chaplain. Thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
And if you want to become a patron and, join us on our monthly happy hour Zoom Q&A call, cocktail hour extravaganzas, you can do that by going to, patreon.com/aisle45pod, right? AISLE 45POD. All right, let's jump into this because this is insane what's going on in DC right now.
Yeah.
Although we kind of expected it, right? We were wondering when it was going to happen because we know Los Angeles was just a trial balloon.
Mm-hmm.
So CBS is reporting Trump said Monday he's deploying members of the National Guard to DC and that the federal government is taking control of the DC police as part of a push to crack down on crime in the nation's capital, despite the data showing that crime has declined in the city, like to its lowest numbers in decades. Quote, I'm announcing an historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. Now, I know that Stephen Miller wrote this because...
I'm about to say, where did he find those words at?
Bedlam is in it. This is what Mr. Trump said at a press conference at the White House. This is Liberation Day in D.C., frightening words. And we're going to take our capital back from... whom? In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their jobs properly. That's what he said.
So he can deploy the National Guard.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Look at that. All right. Hegseth said the Guard was formally mobilized Monday morning and would be flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. In an accompanying executive order, Mr. Trump wrote that the deployment shall remain in effect until I determine that conditions of law and order have been restored in D.C.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about this National Guard thing because I was under the impression that only Nancy Pelosi can call out the National Guard.
Well, have him tell it, depend on what day. What day are you talking about, AG?
Well, he was asked multiple, and this doesn't really matter anymore for criminal purposes. Like I could see this coming into a trial as evidence in a January 6th trial that we never got to see because of the Supreme Court. But to say I've deployed the National Guard and to have the National Guard deployed, it goes against his arguments for years that he had no control over the National Guard and couldn't deploy the National Guard on January 6th.
Yeah, it's insane that, like you just said, this would have been great in a trial because this goes against everything that he was saying was at the heart of what was responsible for it was Nancy Pelosi's failure to protect the Capitol and everything when he has the control over it. It's ridiculous. And we all know that it's total BS and projection and distraction. But going deeper into these what he's doing in DC, federalizing it and having officers, they bragged about cleaning out homeless camps and everything. The problem is they just signed legislation to get rid of all the funds and the funding that would help people that need housing, that the after school programs, these benefits and things that actually have brought the crime down. I think it's down exactly 26% of violent crime from this point last year. It's down exactly 26%. And that is because they have programs that have been working clearly. Point to the data. Donald Trump should brag about that. I'm not giving him any bullet points, but that's what he should be bragging on. Crime is down since I took office. And you know what? He wouldn't be lying for probably the first time in his life. So brag on that. But the problem is they just want to I heard somebody say on the news talking about this is a problem. He's trying to fix everything with a hammer. And that's not how you fix it. This needs some fine tuning. And crime. Everybody wants crime to be down. Everybody wants low crime. Everybody wants to feel safe. But this is only going to lead to more chaos and other lives being ruined. Right.
The only problem, though, with crime being down is that, a lot of that has to do with Muriel Bowser and what she's done. And, I was talking a little bit earlier with Wajahat Ali on his Substack Live, The Left Hook.
Yeah.
And we were talking about...
I like him, but he's great.
He is great.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, I was like, hey, what do Muriel Bowser and Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, have in common? What do those people have in common? And so, and crime is down in Los Angeles too.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think he risks the credit going to these amazing Black women leading cities.
Yeah.
Instead of himself. And he also needs this sort of false concept that crime is rampant in blue cities in order to go forward with his plan to send out National Guard troops and military troops, Marines, and that, to dub them anarchic jurisdictions and that everything's violent and horrible and covered in shit. Unlike the Capitol, which was all of those things on January 6th.
Literally covered in it.
So it's, my very first thing, and I texted you about this. I'm like, he can call out the National Guard.
Yep.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Interesting.
I think I posted on Blue Sky, like, okay, so you can't call out the National Guard on January 6th.
It's not Nancy Pelosi, right?
But you can call them out on August 11th? Okay. What the hell?
But also to your point, what you just said about the violent crime and what he's trying to do with the federalization of everything, the act that he invoked, I think it gives him authority for 30 days, I think, before, because it's still, DC is still under Congress's authority, not Donald Trump's. Congress's authority. Same thing with the U.S. Capitol Police. U.S. Capitol Police fall under the legislation. Under the rule.
Home rule.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Of the Congress. So that's who we work. We didn't work for the executive branch. We work for the legislative branch. And Donald Trump is not obviously that. But also.
So wait, another separation of powers violation.
Separation of power violation. So it's crazy, but. He could do this for 30 days. At least that's the understanding that I have.
No, I'm going to do it until I decide.
Until he decides. So that's what makes me like, until I determine that conditions of law and order have been restored. Actually, you have 30 days and then you have to go to Congress. But I mean, knowing how this Congress rolls over for whatever this man does, I mean, is it here for the long run? Probably.
Yeah. And will he actually go to Congress? Or will he just ignore the fact that they actually have control over this?
And that's the thing. So here in D.C., I hope that Muriel Bowser and her team are ready to go to the Supreme Court about this, because according to the act that, I forget the name of it, the act that he enacted to be able to do this, the criteria isn't met. Like I said, violent crime is down.
Right. It's an exception to the home rule, I think.
So I'm wondering, I'm curious what type of legal plays does it go to the Supreme Court? Can it be handled? I don't know, but I hope that DC has some fighters in their government, in the local government, that are not going to stand idly by and let this happen unchallenged, at least.
Right. And I wanted to ask you about our friends. You and I have mutual friends that are in the Metropolitan Police Department, and his commandeering of the MPD under federalization exception to the home rule. What's like Danny Hodges saying? What's going? Because I know that Mike Fanone's no longer.
Yeah, he's no longer
MPD.
there. I literally, as we were recording this show, my phone just started buzzing and buzzing. I had to look at it and make sure nothing was breaking. And I'll tell you offline what it says, AG. But
okay.
but just say it's how can I put this? MPD officers aren't taking this lightly, and they're not happy about it at all. So,
all right. So there is unrest, and in the MPD,
at least the couple officers that I know, and I know a bunch of them. So yeah,
yeah. I figured you knew more than I did. So because you worked alongside them every day.
That's it. And you know what? They are doing
their lives
jobs.
Were put in danger on January 6th.
Correct. And now Donald Trump having authority over them is insane. So,
my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, I'm frightened as far as where this is going, right? Because part of his plan's always been to, like he did in LA, and they're on the stand right now. Some people testifying, like leaders of military brigades and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that Newsom lawsuit in a second. But, where this is going, this seems like he's putting these people out on the street to instigate.
Yeah.
So that he can have a reason to invoke martial law or the Insurrection Act or declare anarchic jurisdictions to go after the enemy from within, which he has said on the campaign trail. And that's what my main fear is, that's all part of this, part of a plan to F up the 2026 midterm elections or something to that effect. So, I'm interesting to do it in DC because the states run the elections. They're all their own elections. So, I mean, I'm not sure where this is going, but it's not good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not good. They don't have good intentions behind this action. And this is all, how can they further their regime? It's not even, like I said, I stopped calling it a administration. This is a regime that we are involved in right now. And nothing that he's doing is, like I said, is for the furtherance of goodwill towards men.
No,
not at all. But let's just see how this continues to play out. I saw something funny that said that it's going to be such a sight, and people that know Washington D.C. know the mall, the monuments and stuff, having DEA agents patrolling those areas while literally people are out jogging and mothers and families are out pushing their babies in strollers. Like, that's literally what's on the mall.
I know. I saw that video of the lady jogging and 5 guys in full tactical gear.
Yeah. That's what I saw. That's like, yeah, that's crazy.
And they all kind of looked annoyed and bored.
Like, what are we doing here? The rank and file is not okay with this. But I think that the FOP is okay with this. They like this type of stuff. They want unchecked power. They want Donald Trump and his presser. He said, you're going to be able to do whatever the hell you want to do. And that's dangerous. Just that language alone is very dangerous. And we can't have that unchecked. Unchecked police power, a police state is not what we are here in America, and we cannot stand for it.
No, I agree. All right, my friend, we have a lot more news to get to, but we have to take a really quick break. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, y'all, welcome back. Switching gears a little bit, we have an update on the Trump lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch over their story about Trump's writing a letter and drawing a picture of a naked woman for Epstein's 50th birthday. If y'all will remember in a previous episode, we talked about how Trump wanted to depose Rupert Murdoch within 15 days, talking about his health, his age, saying he wanted to get Murdoch's testimony on the record in case he becomes incapacitated or dies.
Yeah, but apparently Trump and Murdoch reached a deal where they'll wait to see whether Murdoch's motion to dismiss Trump's stupid case is granted. And if it's not, and they do have to go to trial, then Murdoch said he would agree to be deposed within 30 days. So Trump caved. Trump always chickens out. Taco.
Taco.
We'll keep an eye on this lawsuit for you. And in another lawsuit, Harry, this one is, like I mentioned before the break, Governor Gavin Newsom, who accused Trump of violating the Posse Comitatus Act when he sent the military to Los Angeles for no reason. Now, that trial is underway as we are recording this episode. It's a bench trial in California before Judge Breyer, who I think is related to former Supreme Court Justice Breyer. And you can get full coverage of this, blow by blow, word for word, from Adam Klasfeld from All Rise News or Anna Bauer from Lawfare. So those are some really great independent media sources. And if you can donate to their work, that's even better. And we're going to have a better idea of how it's going for next week's episode. I'm going to actually see if we can get one of those experts that's attending the trial to join us to discuss it. I'll keep you posted on that. But it's not going well so far for the government.
Yeah. And I wonder if this will be, something that DC is watching to see if they can, respond accordingly should Donald Trump decide to do that. So we're obviously keeping eyes on that. And last week, Trump tried to cancel this trial. And here's how Judge Breyer responded. I love it because it's, so every time you say something like that, you're like, oh, something's good about it.
He's salty. Yeah. He's like,
Defendants corrected supplemental opposition to plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction asserts that because plaintiff's Posse Comitatus Act claim fails as a matter of law. So I have to understand what the heck all this, Trump is like, what the heck is he talking about? Quote, next week's trial should be canceled and plaintiff's motion denied. Next week's trial is not canceled. The court expects to hear evidence beginning on Monday. Per the court's order, the presentation of evidence shall proceed efficiently. Failure to have the next witness ready or to be prepared to proceed with the evidence will usually constitute resting. Following the presentation of evidence, the court expects to hear the parties' legal arguments beginning on Tuesday.
So Trump sent a thing in saying that Gavin Newsom's Posse Comitatus Act claim fails as a matter of law, so next week's trial should be canceled. And the judge said next week's trial is not canceled. And beyond that, when he's talking about that will constitute resting, he's like, if you don't show up and you don't present your evidence or your arguments or your defense, I'm going to consider that you have rested your case.
The defense is rested.
That I'm not going to wait on you, basically, and I will rule from the bench. Because this is a bench trial, okay? Yeah. Not a jury trial. So this is just up to Judge Breyer. And like I said, so far it's not going well for Trump. There's somebody on the stand. They're showing photos of the military engaging in what appears to be law enforcement action, which is a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, right? You have to invoke the Insurrection Act in order to be able to have the military do law enforcement. Okay. And so they're showing
two different jobs. They're two totally different jobs, what the military does and what the police do.
Yeah. And they have to be. I think it was Adama on Battlestar Galactica that said, let me get the quote because it's so prescient here. And I've used this quote several times on social media. So from me, Adama, the quote is, there's a reason you separate military and the police. One fights the enemies of the state. The other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemy of the state tend to become the people.
That's so real. Whatever quote that was, that's actually
Commander William Adama, Battlestar Galactica.
That looks like that's gonna play out in real time.
It is, right? And so, but it's not going well. So they're showing all these photos of the military doing things. And remember the guy who went to his VA appointment and they arrested and detained him? That's a law enforcement action.
Yeah.
And then they also talked about MacArthur Park and how the guy in charge of the military actually said to Hegseth and the president, we're not doing this. And then he was out as the commander and they brought in a new commander and they did it.
Yeah, so somebody who will do it. So this has a lot of ramifications that's going on. Obviously, like I said, if we'll see if this has any ramifications on what happens in DC, depending on how this trial goes. Because if it doesn't go well for Trump, I mean, 9 times out of 10, he's appealing it to a higher court, all the way to the Supreme Court. And now the Supreme Court will have the final say to see if Donald Trump can start federalizing states that he let's back up. Federalized Democrat-run states, because there are a lot of red states there that have higher crime rates than the ones that he's targeting. So let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
So
and
let's
while
say
what's happening in DC is different because DC, the home rule, it's a different situation than like a city that belongs to a state, because DC doesn't have that. However, you still have to, like you said, Harry, it still has to comport with the home rule, and there has to be a reason, and there isn't one. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So we'll see how this plays out. Obviously, I think we're not done hearing the last of this, and not this trial, but Trump federalizing different states, different towns, cities. He doesn't stop at DC.
And by the time we record the show next week, we might have a decision from Breyer in that bench trial. We'll let you know. Yeah. All right, next up, we have an update on Trump's unfounded retribution against New York Attorney General Tish James. What does she have in common with Muriel Bowser and Karen Bass?
It's a common theme going on. Well, they're women. They are women. But something else there, too.
Something else.
Put my finger on it.
Yeah, I don't know. Wow. Somebody let us know. Right in. But anyway, also going after Adam Schiff. Okay, so NBC says that U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi has appointed a special attorney, not a special counsel, because those are against the Constitution. But I don't know why I said that like I'm in Minnesota, but that's against the Constitution.
Constitution.
When I get angry, my Midwest starts coming out. But a special attorney, Ed Martin, by the way, to probe mortgage fraud allegations against Schiff and James. 2 administration officials said this to NBC. Justice Department is also in the initial stages of an investigation into Tish James over her successful civil fraud case against Donald Trump, the one that resulted in a $400-something million fine. And that's according to 3 people familiar. Bondi tapped Ed Martin, conservative activist, January 6th, they're insurrectionist, probably eugenicist, definitely a bigot.
Yeah, just all of that.
Former interim U.S. attorney in D.C. It's now Judge Janine Boxawine Pirro, but it was him. And now he's, by the way, been moved to the DOJ as the Whackadagpa, which is what I call him, which is the weaponization czar, principal associate deputy attorney general pardon attorney.
Okay, that's insane.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now he's also a special attorney investigating Tish James. So that's who has been tapped by Pam Bondi for that. And as a special attorney to investigate Schiff and James, both prominent Democratic opponents of the president. So that's what's going on there.
That's what's going on. Yeah. A senior law enforcement official said a grand jury seated in the Eastern District of Virginia will investigate the James mortgage fraud allegations, and a grand jury in Maryland will investigate the allegations against Schiff. But he's also investigating Tish James's fraud investigation into Trump that resulted, like we talked about earlier, in the $450 million fine for fraud. NBC reports that Ed Martin's probe of Tish James is focused on whether her office used its authority to violate Trump's legal rights through its civil lawsuit against the president and his businesses. That investigation is also looking at whether the NRA, the National Rifle Association's rights were violated by her civil suits. The 3 sources said. It is being run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of New York.
Oh, okay, so this isn't Ed Martin. This is a Northern District of New York. This is a guy named Sarcone, and I think we talked about him because he's only able to be the U.S. Attorney in the Northern District of New York because Trump appointed him to be his own assistant.
Correct.
Yeah, that's that guy. I'm my own grandpa.
That guy. Yes, that guy.
Yeah, and by the way, Schiff is being represented by Preet Bharara, former U.S. Attorney in New York, in the mortgage case. Yeah, he hosts that cafe podcast with Joyce Vance. Right?
Yes. 2 very smart people.
Very smart people. And Tish James is being repped by Abby Lowell.
Jared Kushner's lawyer. Yeah. Should be interesting.
Very good defense attorney.
Very good.
Also for comings and goings this week, just a real quick mention before we take another break. Trump is now on his 6th IRS commissioner. In 7.5 months. His name is Billy. He fired the 5th commissioner, Billy Long, because Billy Long refused to break the law by giving sensitive tax data to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. And I think that's what's happening here is the reason we're on our 6th IRS commissioner is because the IRS commissioner doesn't have presidential immunity. So, so they're
probably hard
like,
to find ones that's going to break the law.
Yeah, like maybe you need to give me a preemptive pardon.
Pardon. I was about to say that.
Do that without making it public. Although I'm sure Ed Martin, who is
would be happy to do that.
The puh on the Whack-a-Dag-puh is pardon attorney, and maybe he could just keep it under wraps. I don't know, little pocket pardon. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the good dude left, and he's like, I'm not.
I didn't like Billy Long either. I mean, he was
they're
a
all
congressman.
terrible.
When he was it was a cap. And I remembered the name, but I couldn't put a face with it. And then when I Googled the name, that face is unforgettable. Like, he's just not a good guy. And, don't let the door hit you on the way out. So glad you're out of there, loser.
Yeah. For reals. All right, we have more to get to. We have a really cool update on what's been happening with all of those other 2020 election interference cases that were brought by state attorneys general.
A lot of this was sitting there. We got updates on these?
We got updates on them.
All right.
And what's so cool is I'm sitting there and I'm like, I wish I just look up what's going on with that. And then bam, Kyle Cheney and Gerstein at Politico put out a whole thing. And I'm like, you guys are the best. So we're going to get into that.
So good, yeah.
We're going to get into that after a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. Let me quick shout out our Hall of Fame patrons this week. These are people who really have stepped up to the plate to help us out, help us go forward, help us pay high wages and do 401k matching and provide health benefits and pay for our galas and all that other stuff. Seriously, you guys are amazing. Thank you to the law offices of Redacted, Epstein, and Redacted, hugely criminal attorneys. That's a great one. Thanks to Greg Kreimer, Clover's Tree 73, Tricycular Manslaughter, SkintWalletsUSA.com, Kate, Joey Merck, Starlanus, David in Brooklyn, Deborah Kirby, Sharon Tukolsky, and Mr. Halfspeed. Thank you so very much for supporting us.
So good. And that is one of my favorite names, the law office of redacted, boom,
Epstein
redacted. That is so good. Like, very creative there. Well done.
Hugely criminal attorney.
Very, very well done, my friend.
All right. So like I said, a lot of folks have been asking what's up with all those state cases, myself included, and ask and ye shall receive, because Politico has written up a summary and it starts like this. Donald Trump's victory in 2024 largely shattered the efforts to prosecute him for his efforts to subvert the 2020 election, but dozens of his allies still face state-level criminal charges for their roles in the plot. Just like the old IRS commissioner, these guys don't have immunity like Trump does.
Mm-hmm.
But there's problems. The 5 cases against them have plodded along for years, mired in procedural gridlock, prosecutorial bungles, and appellate review.
Yeah, none of these cases is anywhere near a trial, yet they all remain pending. A state of legal limbo that exemplifies the nation's halting struggle to reckon with and achieve accountability for Trump's failed bid to seize a second term despite Joe Biden's victory 5 years ago.
Wow. It's so frustrating.
Very much so. Pending 5 years ago. Like, this
everything's pending. So on Wednesday, one of the cases will be at the Nevada Supreme Court for arguments on a key procedural issue. 2 others, after long stretches of dormancy, could be revitalized in the next several months. The upcoming developments could determine whether any of the defendants ever have to face a jury for meddling in the election, even as Trump uses his office to perpetuate the bogus claims that the 2020 election was stolen from him.
Well, yeah, funny that you say that, because technically, Donald Trump himself is still a defendant in one of the cases, the racketeering conspiracy case in Georgia, brought to you by Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis. She's also got something in common with those other women
what
that
is
you
it?
mentioned.
What is it?
But it is unlikely that Trump will ever have to face those charges. For the next 3.5 years, he is protected by the office of the presidency, and after that, he'll retain broad immunity from prosecution. But, I like a good but, there is one legal tool that Trump doesn't have in his arsenal. The 5 pending cases are all state courts, so Trump has no power to pardon his allies like he can in federal cases or order his Justice Department to drop the charges.
Yep, can't do it. All right, so let's go over these state cases, starting with Arizona. Last year, AG Chris Mays, a Democrat, indicted 18 Trump allies with efforts to fraudulently overturn the election in 2020. Grand jurors wanted to charge Trump, but were talked out of it by prosecutors. But of course, everybody's mad at Merrick Garland. Instead, the indictment labeled Trump an unindicted co-conspirator and a mastermind of the alleged plot. Now, the case once represented one of the starkest threats to Trump's allies. Meadows, Eastman, Giuliani, they were all indicted. So was Trump aide Boris Epstein and former GOP chairwoman Kelly Ward. But now the case, according to Politico, is a mess. Last fall, the presiding judge recused himself after the defendants criticized him for sending an internal email urging male colleagues to speak out against sexist attacks against Kamala Harris. His replacement, Sam Myers, ruled last month that the entire case was flawed because grand jurors were never shown the full extent of the Electoral Count Act, the 1887 law, at the heart of some of the charges. Chris Mays has appealed that ruling, which put the case on hold pending review by higher courts, but that pause is likely to continue through the fall. If Mays loses, her office would have to assemble a new grand jury to consider reissuing the charges, one that could take a sharply different direction than the last one. So even if Mays prevails and preserves her case, the earliest it will resume is late 2025. And if it does, a long list of motions by defendants to dismiss the charges, citing a complex array of constitutional principles, awaits them. And that could take months to resolve. That was one of the things that held up the case against Trump. There were 8 key witnesses that claimed all sorts of privilege, including executive privilege. And it took the courts a year to resolve those, which delayed Merrick Garland's investigation by a year.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, okay, that was Arizona. But now on to Georgia. This is the only case which Trump remains a defendant, but is also the most dysfunctional case. Willis, the Atlanta area district attorney, brought the ambitious racketeering case in 2023 in August, but has been mired in 2 years of controversy and drama. Trump and other defendants claimed that Willis, a Democrat, had a conflict of interest stemming from her romantic relationship with one of her handpicked top prosecutors. In December 2024, an appeals court agreed, ruling that Willis and her entire office must be removed from the case. Willis is appealing that decision at the Georgia Supreme Court. Her appeal has been pending for 7 months. A state Supreme Court ruling that upholds Willis's disqualification would trigger a process to transfer the matter to a district attorney who could drop the case altogether or revisit her charging decisions. That would mean months or even years of further delay. And even if Willis remains in charge, the trial judge overseeing the case must resolve a flood of motions, like we were just talking about, from more than a dozen defendants who are trying to gut the charges or get them dismissed altogether.
Yep. All right, that's Georgia. On to Michigan. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel was the first state prosecutor to bring a case over the effort to upend the 2020 results. It still came after Jack Smith's indictment. In July 2023, she unsealed charges against the 16 Republican activists who cast false elector votes for Trump in Michigan. The case against one of those defendants was dropped, but the other 15 defendants remain. The case is grinded slowly along with the charges facing review from Kristen Simmons, a state judge appointed by Gretchen Whitmer. Now, Simmons is scheduled a hearing September 9th, so that's coming up right now. But the slow pace of the proceedings has reportedly frustrated both pro-democracy groups and some defendants. It's unclear if or when the matter will go to trial. It briefly rose to the federal courts this year when one of the defendants, Clifford Frost Jr., asked a federal judge to intervene and prevent the prosecution from advancing, claiming it was politically motivated. But U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker, a G.W. Bush appointee, declined to step in, citing precedent that frowned upon federal courts disrupting state proceedings. An appeals court backed him up in April. And I think I said that Dana Nessel for the fraudulent electors indictment came after Jack Smith's. No, it came right before.
Right before it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now to Nevada. Like the Michigan case, this case is limited to fake electors. Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford, a Democrat, brought charges in December 2023 against the 6 Republicans who cast fake electoral votes in the state 2020. But this case has been bogged down by a technical issue, the proper venue for the case to proceed. Ford filed the changes in Clark County, which includes Las Vegas. The defendants argued that he should have filed them in the state capital, Carson City. that dispute was reached in the Nevada Supreme Court, which will hear arguments on Wednesday. So that's coming up.
That's today.
That's today. That's today. Even if Ford wins and reinstates his case in Clark County and wins a lengthy series of pretrial fights over the evidence in this case, a trial is unlikely to occur until well into 2026. Ford has since become a candidate in the Nevada's governor's race next year. Wednesday's argument will be the first significant courtroom action for any of the 2020 election cases in months.
Wow. All right. So that's today.
We got another one, don't we?
We do. Let's talk about Wisconsin, the youngest of the 5 cases and the one with the fewest number of defendants. Though it has not been waylaid by process disputes like the other cases, it has plodded along slowly. The state's attorney general, Josh Kaul, who's a Democrat, filed the charges in June of 2024 against 3 key Trump allies. The Ken Cheesebro, the architect of Trump's strategy to deploy fake electors. James Trupis, a Wisconsin-based attorney who helped craft the Trump campaign strategy in that state. And Mike Roman, a real a-hole, Trump political operative who helped implement the elector strategy across the country. They're all awaiting a ruling on their efforts to dismiss the case, which have been pending for several months. So these are all pretrial things, the same kind of stuff that Jack Smith had to contend with.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that makes things go slow, but it's due process.
Yeah.
Our due process is so in favor of our criminal defendants in this country. Well, the rich ones.
I was just about to say, which ones?
The ones that don't look like Karen Bass, Muriel Browser, or Fani Willis, or Tish James. It seems like due process is followed and exhausted for certain defendants and is just sort of trampled for others. But that's what it should look like for everyone, right? So I've always argued, like, we shouldn't be taking due process away from these a-holes. We should be giving it to everyone else.
Everybody. That's why we fought so hard about the whole Abrego Garcia thing. This wasn't about whether he was a criminal or not. It was about his due process. And I got so frustrated when people, sometimes, definitely on the right, but we're saying, if he's a criminal, he's a criminal. No, we're not defending that. We're defending that he has the right to have his trial heard in court.
He should at least have as much due process as 34 felony count convicted Donald Trump.
Hello.
Everyone should have that level of due process.
Absolutely.
But everyone has to understand that level of due process makes these things drag out 5 years, 6 years. Who the F am I? My case doesn't go to trial until probably early 2026 from when I was fired in 2019.
Yeah.
These things just take forever.
It takes a long time. Hell, the lawsuit that we filed against the architect of the Capitol for the plaque, the architect doesn't even have a response filed yet. Their response is not due until August the 18th.
Yeah.
So it's coming up, but even them to just answer the question has taken 2 months. It takes time.
It sure does. And it's expensive. And certain people have access to it and certain people do not.
Yep.
All right, everybody. We have, I think, just one more story to get to.
Ooh, we got a good one. Remember, you teased about it at the beginning. So
a little teaser.
Yeah.
Gave you a little sizzle reel about what's going on with AME. We're going to talk about that after this last break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, and we're back. Like we just said before the break, we have one more story for you, and this one comes from The Independent. It's about 3 years after the Proud Boys vandalized a historic Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church, ripping down and burning a Black Lives Matter sign following a pro-Trump rally, a judge ordered the far-right extremist group to pay the church over $2.8 million in damages for its hateful and overtly racist conduct. But the Proud Boys defaulted on the judgment, and in an attempt to collect, the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan AME sued the Proud Boys for their rights to their name, the notorious organization's single most valuable asset.
This is just so good. In February, D.C. Superior Court Judge Tanya Jones Bozier transferred ownership of the Proud Boys trademark to the church. Okay? This meant that the Proud Boys could no longer call themselves the Proud Boys. They couldn't maintain a website as the Proud Boys or sell Proud Boys merchandise without the church's consent. Now, the ruling also allowed the church to go after whatever money the Proud Boys had made off of their brand, the one that they stole from the church. Today, the Proud Boys continue to disregard the order, hawking branded hats, T-shirts, stickers, fundraising, collecting membership dues, and Metropolitan AME is entirely disinclined to turn the other cheek. That's a nice little Jesus reference there.
That is good. As a result of the trademark order, all use of the name by or on behalf of the chapter should cease immediately. And any money the chapters have obtained from using the name should be applied towards the judgment the Proud Boys owe to the church. And this is an argument by the federal trademark infringement lawsuit filed on Monday in New York. This was obtained by The Independent. As of August 4th, the total amount due with interest stands at more than $3.1 million. The church's complaint contends and says the judgment remains almost entirely unpaid.
Yeah, I'm interested, what was paid.
I'm about to say something was paid almost. Would they send them like a 20 for their troubles or something?
Right, I don't know. So the church is now seeking an injunction to force the Proud Boys to stop using the Proud Boys name, which no longer belongs to them, to return or destroy all existing inventory of the infringing products, and for the organization formerly known as the Proud Boys, love that, to turn over all funds they have received from the name's use until the judgment has been satisfied. Meanwhile, the complaint says the Proud Boys' quote, ongoing willful infringement is tarnishing Metropolitan AME's trademark, and it's causing significant harm to Metropolitan AME, which created its own line of T-shirts featuring the Proud Boys logo, but with slogans such as "Stay Proud, Stay Black." My God. Wow. So they're making shirts with the Proud Boys logo, which belongs to them.
Yeah.
That says "Stay Proud, Stay Black."
That's kind of awesome.
It's fantastic is what that is.
As a result of recent use, advertising, promoting, and selling T-shirts bearing the Proud Boys mark and celebrating the church's victory against the Proud Boys attack, such mark has become uniquely associated with the Metropolitan AME Church and its products advocating for racial justice, the complaint states. Roughly 6 weeks ago, Metropolitan AME's lawyers served the Proud Boys Hudson Valley chapter president, William Pepe, with a cease and desist letter, which the complaint says has gone completely ignored.
The 36-year-old Pepe, who was convicted of a felony and 4 misdemeanors for his participation in the January 6th Capitol riot, but pardoned by President Trump before he could be sentenced, was unable to be reached for comment. However, in a brief phone call on Tuesday, Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes first railed against the media, then blithely dismissed Metropolitan AME leadership as quote-unquote fucking morons. McInnes insisted really? Because they outsmarted the fuck out of you,
they did.
Sir.
They did.
Sorry, that's a little sweary for the main episode, but McInnes insisted to The Independent that the Proud Boys are not a white supremacist gang, but a multiracial club that welcomes Black, gay, and Jewish members. He further downplayed, rather implausibly, the notion that the Proud Boys ever made significant amounts of money from their merch.
Interesting. The Metropolitan AME Church was founded in 1838. Since then, it has hosted funerals for Frederick Douglass and Rosa Parks, speeches by Martin Luther King and Eleanor Roosevelt, and where Barack Obama prayed the morning of his second inauguration.
Yeah, on January 4th, 2021, that's 2 days before the Capitol attack, Metropolitan filed its initial lawsuit against the Proud Boys over an attack on the church. Remember when Enrique Tarrio set the banner on fire? And accused the Proud Boys of engaging in racially motivated acts of terror and violence, and sought a money judgment on 3 causes of action: bias-related conspiracy, defacement of private property, and theft. In June of 2023, the court ruled in favor of Metropolitan AME, ordering the Proud Boys to pay the church more than $1 million in damages plus legal fees in excess of $1.8 million for actions that it deemed reprehensible to an extreme degree. Yet, since the Proud Boys never paid up, post-judgment interest has since brought the bill to almost $3.2 million.
Yeah, wow. At the same time, the Proud Boys continued their illegal use of Metropolitan's AME's trademark, an ongoing violation of the court order. The complaint goes on. It points to, among other things, websites and domain names used by the group that featured the Proud Boys name, along with hats, stickers, and T-shirts emblazoned with the Proud Boys name and logo, as well as a Telegram channel that improperly makes use of the Proud Boys trademark. In addition to an injunction forcing the Proud Boys to change their name, Metropolitan AME wants them to fork over their profits 3 times, plus pre-judgment and post-judgment interest, as well as lawyer fees and punitive damages, in an amount sufficient to deter other and future similar conducts. and I
and you
couldn't be
can do
rooting
that.
for them more.
And you can do that. If somebody has infringed on your copyright and used it to make money, you are allowed to ask for 3 times what they made. Ooh.
I'm rooting for them.
I swear to God, Gavin McInnes. Oh, you guys are idiots. Really?
Yeah.
Because you owe those idiots $3.1 million because they got your trademark.
Yeah, they got it.
Oh, man. It's just brilliant. I'm so excited for what happens with this lawsuit.
Yeah.
And hats off to AME, Metropolitan AME. I mean, to create merch with the Proud Boys logo that they own, that they got custody of.
Yeah.
But to use it for, stay black, stay proud, for civil rights slogans,
awesome.
Their work in the civil rights space.
That's awesome.
Is just, that's just
especially considering all the things that the Proud Boys represent. So to use it with that messaging on it, hats off to them. And they're not effing morons, like you said, AG. They outsmarted the hell out of you. So
yeah, we'll see where that goes. We'll keep an eye on it for you. This lawsuit, like you said, was just filed this last Monday, a week ago Monday. So we'll keep an eye on it because that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
For all intents and purposes. That trademark belongs to
the AME Church. Yep, sure does.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to our patrons. Thanks to our non-patrons who listen. Everybody is awesome and amazing, and all of our listeners are super incredible. We couldn't thank you more the words aren't there. So
yeah.
I always say, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude, but I can't express how grateful I am. With words, it doesn't happen. I'm out of words. All my superlatives
out
are
of it. Like you said, that doesn't happen, AG. We usually got the words for it. But
we usually do. But in these times, we've run out of adjectives. But thank you. That's, I know we're both super grateful. And we're going to see you next week. If you're a patron, we're going to see you on the weekend for the bonus episode. We're going to set a date here in a couple weeks for our happy hour Zoom Q&A where you can ask us all questions. I'll see if I can get some cool guests to come. And we'll see if we can get some court experts in from the Gavin Newsom lawsuit to talk to us next week. Do you have any final thoughts today?
No, a lot of people are worried about, obviously Washington, D.C. We're watching that as a trial case, like you stated earlier. But this is all a part of Donald Trump, his playbook, Project 2025, to remain in office and become an authoritarian state. But we can't let that happen. We have to have our fighters in the courtroom, and we need our fighters like you all, everybody that's listening out there, to not give up. I said I had the opportunity to be on with Nicole Wallace on Friday. And I saw that. It was awesome. And I ended with, thank you. And I ended with, we are injured. We are not defeated. So let's not have a defeated mentality. And we just got to find out, what can we do next?
We are down, but we are not out.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Everybody, we'll see you next time. I've been Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.